As I mentioned before, I will continue to mention. I am 55 years old. I have aged out of having opinions on hip-hop beef. I don't need to be giving them to anybody. I just like that J. Cole kind of said, hey, I'm grown up, I'm different, I don't want to do this. Everyone else took it as he's afraid of the fight. I was like, oh, there's a man growing up and willing to do something different with the form.
He matured.
Well, no, but then everyone got really mad, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to bring on a legitimate expert here to learn about it more than talk about it. So Peter Rosenberg, before we get started, for the uninitiated, because he's hosted for a long time in New York, both sports, and he knows everything happening at, when he does Ebro in the morning on Hot 97, he's been doing music talk for a long time. So can you just tell people, Peter, for the uninitiated, your credentials as humbly as you can?
Oh, okay. As humbly as I can. The credentials would be, I've been on Hot 97 as a DJ and a host for the last 17 years now. Yeah, 2007. I'm regarded as one of the most well-known early Kendrick Lamar sort of proponents. I'll start the conversation with that. I am known as that guy. Sort of decided pretty early on he was going to be that dude. I have a Sunday night show where I break music, so I started breaking his music back then. But I've known Drake since the very beginning of his career as well. I'm probably too old to be commenting also, and I'm sure Twitter would tell you that I'm too many things to not be commenting on this. But I am into it. I have gotten dragged in every morning. It has certainly been the topic of conversation.
And so I want to get your expertise here because you're saying you're biased on Kendrick, but it's because he's such a thorough artist and writer, right? You're admiring, more than anything, what you're admiring is that he's the most clever.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Yes, I do think Kendrick's the most clever and lyrical and interesting vocally, etc. I think Drake is great. I mean, I think Drake's a great pop rapper, and I don't mean that as a slight, and a great rapper, period. Like, I enjoy Drake's music. I think the reason I end up being biased towards Kendrick is probably what kind of ends up dividing a lot of people on this, which is that Kendrick has made a concerted effort to be the dude who talks about things that matter. He's been doing that for a very long time, and he's done really well doing it. But he's not going to be on the radio all day, every day, because he doesn't make records like that. So I do get a little bit frustrated when a Drake will come along and not only want to be the biggest pop star, but then also expect to be considered like the #1 rapper when I don't know that he tries to even check all those boxes. Kendrick cares about those boxes. He's influenced by the Public Enemies, the Chuck D's, the Ice Cubes, everything, the Eminems, the Andre 3000s. There's a pedigree to Kendrick, and he cares about it, and it stands out in moments like yesterday's.
Cares too much, some would argue, because 19 minutes is what you got, and it's because he insists on making a tapestry. Everybody wanted him to do it earlier, and he's like, no, I'm going to do it like this because I care about the history of what all of this is, and now people are making fun of him for producing 19 minutes of caring there that was too much. Where are you on the internet discourse on this, on people taking sides? You're biased, but what do you find interesting about what's happening around the beef?
Well, two things. One, the thing that we got handed yesterday was 6.5 minutes. They say there's 19. We got 6.5, which is still, I mean, that's still longer. Dan, let me go back to our era. It's still longer than Triumph, which had every member of Wu-Tang rapping on it. It's a long song, no matter how you call it. But I would say in the discourse, I'm firmly in the Kendrick bodied that. I don't, if you don't think he did, you just don't know enough about rap to have the conversation, or you don't listen hard enough. But I'm also not in the mindset that Drake hasn't been good and entertaining as well. I think Drake's in an interesting spot right now, because I think if Drake even produces something that makes people like go, wow, oh, he really got in there, I think Drake can win with a tie. That is what I think. I think Drake, if he puts up something close, I think can get a win. But listen, Dan, Stu, we're living in an era where the loudest voices are Twitch streamers who have been listening to rap for 6 years. I mean, so Drake is going to get told that he won no matter what, because Drake is friends. He's in the DMs and talking to all the Twitch streamers. Everyone knows him. Everyone wants to go to the parties. Everyone wants to be around the women. He's going to win in that court of public opinion. It's going to come down to what the hip hop heads say. And I think that's still pretty split as well. But I'm firmly on that in this moment. I'd say it was a 10-9 round for Kendrick.
But you're doing something here too. Is you're more than just biased when you say hip hop heads. You're also bringing in all the activism, and you're admiring Kendrick Lamar because of how thoroughly he respects the art and history of what this is. He won't do pop, and once you're viewing it through those eyes, I don't know that there's a way that he can lose for you.
Well, that's a totally fair point. I'll say this though. When I saw it was 6.5 minutes, I was like, I'm not sure. And I'll even say this. This whole thing really got going when Kendrick did a guest verse with Future and Metro Boomin on a song called Like That. And I did not rave about Kendrick's verse. Everyone was going like, oh my God. He said, mother F the big three. It's just big me. I was like, I don't think that's that great a bar. Like I wasn't over the moon. So I am trying to be critical. I just think this song was that dope. But you're right. There is a bias built in there because of the way that he cares. The way that he would fumble it would have been if he really did release the 19 minutes. That would have been a fumble. If he had dropped a 19-minute song, to me, that would have been a big mistake. Now it'll be interesting to see whether Drake comes back, which I'm sure he will, and then if Kendrick responds again. That's where we've seen in history artists make the mistake. Like Jay and Nas went back and forth and everyone loved Ether and Takeover. But then when Jay did Super Ugly, that's when everyone was like, nah, you're trying too hard. So there are still rooms for Kendrick to make a mistake. I just don't think he will. I don't think it's how he operates.
Can you explain to us the details of the beef, the reported truths, and just the history of it?
I'll do the best I can. I mean, listen, I'm also in my 40s, Dan. I'm trying to figure it out as best I can. It's because these days the move is the records come out and these kids then get on the internet and do research for like weeks. We had to like wait back in the day to like wait for the next Source magazine to come in a month to try to figure it out. So there's a lot there, but I think it's multi-tier. I think there's a lot of inside baseball to it, which Kendrick alludes to on this song. And then there's the sort of more obvious stuff, which is Drake not feeling accepted as the lyricist, Kendrick maybe feeling a little bit as the outsider because he's not a pop star, and then these weird relationship things that have happened. I mean, you can't forget, Drake took Kendrick on tour. That is a thing that happened. Kendrick's first big tour was opening for Drake. They did the song Poetic Justice together. There was like a real thing between the two of them, and then over time, things happened, much of which we don't really know about, and it's kind of coming out on these records. Kendrick implies in Euphoria that Drake had tried to get him on the song First Person Shooter with J. Cole, and he turned him down. So there's these little inside baseball back and forth that I'm not going to lie to you, I only know about now from listening to the songs and breaking them down as well. But I think this is a broader conversation about what these two dudes stand for. I think Kendrick Lamar's biggest beef with Drake is you have the biggest platform imaginable and you don't do anything with it. I really think that's what it comes down to. And people will get into a lot of the stuff on the record about colorism and Kendrick saying, you saying the N-word is cringeworthy, and all of these things that play into race, Americans, Canadians, all these different things. It's all interesting. I think it's all really about Kendrick is like, I'm a guy who chooses to make my platform about something. You choose to make party records and records for girls to dance to who are way too young for to even be dancing to your records. I think that's kind of where this thing really comes down to.
Oh, but Peter, if you're talking about right, as artists, then you're saying that Kendrick disdains the entirety of Drake's essence because he doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, people will say me saying that, like like Kendrick has never told me I hate Drake. I've never had a conversation with him about Drake in that regard with him or his team. But if you listen to what he says and you watch how he chooses to operate and you hear the things that he says on Euphoria and you go back and listen to Kendrick's last album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, you're looking at someone who has chosen. This is a guy who won the first Pulitzer Prize in hip hop. This is a guy who's chosen to take this thing to different places. Yeah, I think he has a real disdain, as he says on this record, for someone who he probably believes is talented, but doesn't choose to do anything special. Like, he believes that Drake is all about fame, and having a big plane and having tons of money. And I think it'll be hard for Drake to argue that he's not about those things. And by the way, those things are popular. People love hearing about those things. But I think for someone like Kendrick Lamar, who came up on the things that he came up in and makes the kind of music that he makes, yeah, I think disdain is probably a fair word.
Oh, but when I talk about disdain from the greats, Stugotz, I'm talking about Jim Brown, okay? He hated that Michael Jordan and O.J. Simpson never said anything about anything because he was working so hard on his activism. And he pointed out that Muhammad Ali didn't go from the most hated athlete to the most beloved athlete in America until he lost his ability to speak. What Kendrick Lamar does, the way that he does it, Drake must offend him. Like, just, even if he's spiritual, even if he's trying to be forgiving, even if he's trying not to be judgmental of others, that you would take hip-hop's platform and only do the things that get you money and women and cars and the things, that would be deeply offensive to Kendrick Lamar, all of it.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, just to make a comp to our world, and maybe I'm speaking out of school, you can sort of relate to it. I mean, you guys literally do smart sports radio. Now, it has turned into a really lucrative business, and it's worked out great. But there have been many times when you could go be the blowhard on the radio, who you guys enjoy making fun of, and you've chosen not to do it. And it made your path a little bit longer. And I'm sure there have been moments and certain personalities in our industry that you kind of have a disdain for what they do because they don't really go about it in a way with integrity. And I think that's the Kendrick Lamar story.
I'm good with it. But speaking of sports radio, listen, okay? Some advice for you, for Michael K., for Don LaGreca. Today is not a day for you guys to talk, okay? Give out the phone number, take 4 hours of calls. Let Sal in Brooklyn do the work for you. You hear me?
By the way, listen, I take that very seriously as the guy who was rumored to be the program director of our competition very recently.
Well, thank you. And if you guys are hiring, let me know.
Well,
okay?
no, but hold on. Like,
you're right.
Would you please give Peter Rosenberg, I'd like for him to get whatever it is the speech would have been if you'd been in that town running that market with program director meetings. You tell Rosenberg how to do his job. Rosenberg, I'm going to need you to, I know you're a veteran, but you're going to need to accept some instruction here.
Done.
I tell Don LaGreca, no rants, don't say a word. I tell Michael K., no rants, don't say a word. I tell Peter Rosenberg, no rants, don't say a word. I name everyone else on the lineup, but I don't know anyone else on the lineup. Dave Rothenberg, no rants, don't say a word. Let the callers do the work for you. Today is one of those special days in New York where you don't have to do your job. You can let the callers do the job for you. It's a special day. We haven't had one of these in a while. Let them cook. You guys sit back, enjoy, and take a 20 share. How about that?
You know what? Beautifully said. And by the way, what is there to say after that last night? You have to leave that to the fans.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
That's good analysis. It's good analysis.
Well, it's what he should do.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
He was right to stop talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was practicing. I was trying to do what Stu's saying I should do.
Because I know LaGreca thinks it's all about him today. And I'm telling you, today it's not. If he wants FAN to get 25 shares, they will. LaGreca, shut your mouth today.
It's not about you today, LaGreca.
Yes.
It's not about you.
I think you guys, you're taunting for another Don rant by just even saying this. That's what you're doing.
See you later, Peter. Thank you.
Take care.
See you, man.